by Councilwoman Salisbury, second by Councilman Paranto. All in any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Is there anything additional?
No, Your Honor.
All right. No other business. We adjourn at 6:46.
I now call the June 1st, 2021 regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance will be given to us by Councilman Bailey and Councilman Larson. Could you give us the invocation?
I will.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our eternal Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this opportunity to serve Riverton. We're thankful for the blessings that we have, the town, the people. We're thankful for those that serve to protect us. Please watch over and bless them. We're thankful for the military people that are our beck and call. Father, we would ask that thou would bless us with insight, understanding, that we might do the very best for this city. We humbly ask this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome.
Would the city clerk please conduct roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Dean Peranto.
Here.
Councilwoman Lindsay Cox.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Here.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilwoman Christy Salisbury.
Here.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Here. I declare that there's a quorum present. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion. Councilman Bailey has the second. Any further council discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. It's nice to get back to a full number. Appreciate you being here.
Using me last time.
Item number 7 is communication from the floor, citizens' comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is scheduled for a public hearing will be given the opportunity to speak during that public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on any other item may speak now. I would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium and identify yourself for the records. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, the consent agenda items. Would the city clerk please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, May 18th, 2021, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, June 1st, 2021, Finance Committee meeting. Approval of the Finance Committee recommendations for June 1st, 2021. An open container permit application for the Riverton Lions Club for their annual club celebration on June 7th, 2021 at Sunset Park from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And a replat of Lot 106A, Country Club Villages First Edition, located on Tam O'Shanter, petitioners Bill and Georgette Mallon. And an access and utility easement located on a parcel of land located in the northwest quarter southwest half of Section 12, the northeast half and northeast quarter of Section 11, Township 1 North, Range 3 East, Wind River Meridian. Petitioners are Richard U. and Dorlis J. Family Trust.
Thank you. Are there any items requiring further discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
the Finance Committee met earlier this evening and approved the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $456,664.22, manual checks in the amount of $2,939.58, payroll and liabilities for May 21st, 2021 in the amount of $458,475.78, for a total of $918,079.58.
Thank you very much. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson has the motion. Councilwoman Salisbury has the second. Council discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Airport Board appointment, alternate. Every once in a while, we get an opportunity to appoint somebody from our community to sit on one of our committees, which our committees are extensive, and without our committees, we'd be adrift. And so as I look out, I see tons of people in the room that are sitting on one committee or another, some on more than one. So Councilman Perano just vacated this seat. It's probably still warm if we go up to the airport. And so we need to replace him, and Mr. Redden, who is, I thought Jay might be here. I should have called and asked him to be here. He probably would have if I would have asked. Is a pilot and has a great interest in the airport and has offered his services to sit on that board as an alternate. So he sent us in a letter. Kyle approved it. I approved it. And so if there's any discussions, now would be the time for that. Anybody have any thoughts? So the chair would entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Jay Redden as an alternate to the airport board.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion and Councilwoman Cox has the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Ordinance number 21-005, third reading, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Would the city clerk please read ordinance number 21-005 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-005 on third and final reading. An ordinance amending Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 10.12, Additional Traffic Regulations, to establish Section 10.12.180, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-005 on third and final reading.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Dean, was that you?
Yes, sir.
A second. Thank you. Councilman Peranto has the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the city clerk conduct roll call vote, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Christy Salisbury.
Aye.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Yes.
Councilman Carla Borders.
Aye.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lindsay Cox.
Aye.
Councilman Dean Peranto.
Aye.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Aye. Motion passes. Ordinance number 21-007 on second reading, Riverton Municipal Code, Section 15.08.060, Electrical Inspection Revision. Would the city clerk please read ordinance number 21-007 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-007 on second reading. An ordinance amending Title 15, Building Construction, Chapter 15.08, Electrical Code, Article 3, Permits and Inspections, Section 15.08.060, Electrical Inspector, Subsection A of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-007 on second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson has the motion. Councilwoman Borders has the second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passed. A replat of Al Bueller's addition, currently located at 101 East Monroe Avenue. Petitioner is Alan Bueller. It's kind of hard to move land, but I guess it's currently where it's at, so we're just going to let it be there, right? So, Community Development Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The proposed subdivision plat before you this evening is being proposed by Al Bauer and Stephanie Smith. The proposed subdivision will create 5 lots from the existing 4-acre parcel, also known as 101 East Monroe Avenue. Water and sewer utilities surround the existing 4-acre unplatted lot, making them readily available to each of the proposed lots. Utility reviews were delivered with no utilities taking exception to the proposed plat. As presented to the Planning Commission, the proposed subdivision planned to dedicate 65 feet of right-of-way for East Monroe Avenue. However, the existing right-of-way to the east and to the west is approximately 74 feet wide. For future planning purposes, staff recommends approval of the subdivision contingent upon dedication of the right-of-way for East Monroe Avenue consistent with that surrounding right-of-way of 74 feet. This will place the new property line approximately 4.3 feet north of the existing office structure, which is allowed given the current zoning of light industrial I-1. There are no front yard, side yard, or rear yard setback requirements in that zoning. At this time, staff would recommend approval of the proposed subdivision plat. I do believe the petitioner is here if you have any questions. Mr. BAUR is in attendance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bauer, we explained that correctly. Would you like to? So we can hear you.
Yes, it was described correctly.
We need you to speak into that mic if you could. We have a TV audience that can't wait to hear from you.
Testing. So it was described correctly, and we would like to have that 65 feet instead of the 74. And at least we came up with 4 feet next to the north of the building. But in our last meeting, we were right up to the line. The surveyor went out there and he redid it, and he discovered we have 4.3 feet. And I noticed that to the north of the plot, there's 5 feet of the city of Riverton. You can see it up there. There's 5 feet between the lots. The lot line, yeah. There's 5 feet there, that's the city of Riverton. And, you know, if I could get 5 more feet and you guys could have that 5 feet, I'd really appreciate it. And I don't think I'm asking too much because the whole road and everything equals 23,000 square feet, which is more than half an acre that's being given to the city. And all I want is 5 more feet. You know, do you understand what I'm talking about?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I can bring up the proposed lot lines and where he is requesting to, so everyone can see it.
Could you please?
Well,
I got faith in you. You can do it.
so here's the lot as described in the legal description. And as you can see, it borders the quarter section line. The 5 feet that Mr. Bauer is describing is between the original town of Riverton plot versus the south or the quarter section line. When we look at the proposed lot lines, you can see to the west, and this is East Monroe right here, right there, and this is First Street, South First Street. When we look at the right-of-way width here, it is the 74 feet. And when we look at the right-of-way width to the east on Second Street, and I apologize, the lot lines are a bit hard to see. Here's the lot line here, and here's the lot line up on the north side of Monroe. This distance is also 74 feet. And what Mr. Bauer is proposing is the green line here would represent the right-of-way at 64 feet as it was originally proposed to the Planning Commission. The yellow line is as proposed or as recommended by the Planning Commission. So this would delineate a 74-foot right-of-way that would be consistent with both parties. And as I described, we're looking at 50 to 60, 75 years into the future here. But when you do need to go back in and make Monroe Avenue 5 lanes wide as a major arterial collector, again, in probably 60, 70 years, it's really good to have consistent right-of-way from a planning perspective versus jogs that you'll end up having to pay for later on down the road.
So Eric, are you presenting, or which plat are you going, are we going for the 65-foot line, or are we going for the 74?
That's a good question, Your Honor. As presented tonight in front of the council, it comes with the recommendation from the Planning Commission, which was the 74 feet. So if you approve what is presented tonight, that would be the 74 feet, or you do have the option to make the recommendation to move it back to the 64 feet that he was requesting, or split the difference and provide the 5 feet that Mr. Bauer is requesting tonight. So there's a couple different options.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
So I think this would be for Eric, but basically on that, is there no easement there now currently?
Your Honor, we haven't been able to locate, and there's clearly an easement there because we have the overhead electrical power lines, but it was granted so long ago that we're having difficulty digging up the easement. It's going to take a trip over to the books in Lander. And as you can, I'm going to shut the green off so we can see a little bit better.
And I guess to follow up, are the lots on the east and the west, do they already have the 74 feet?
Correct.
Okay.
So this would be the pinch point, if you will, if we were to ever need right-of-way. My guess is that there's easement. Clearly, there's easement because the overhead power lines are there. And there's an existing fence that's right along the border to the edge of the office building that's currently there, which would, it looks like it's running a little bit diagonal, but it's really close to the 74-foot right-of-way on the east side of the lot, and then it tapers down to the south to connect to the south or the northeast corner of the building. But this, again, this yellow line would be the recommended right-of-way, the 74 feet. The green line was what was originally proposed, and there could certainly be something in the middle. But there's definitely easement there already. But
So, Eric, in the planning committee, we only had 1.5 feet, we thought at that time, but with the new survey, we're 4 feet off.
Your Honor, that's correct. The surveyor had made a best guess as to where the office actually sat, given that they were proposing the 64-foot right-of-way. That gave them plenty of room. With the 74 feet, he went back out and actually surveyed the corners of the existing structure, and it pushed it back another 3.5 feet. So again, yeah, as proposed to the yellow line, that would give approximately 4.3 feet between the right-of-way line and the northern boundary of the existing office.
And Alan, you're still wishing to get the green line?
No, I want right in between there.
Between.
And really, there is no pinch point. It's not like we're squeezing it because there's 5 feet across the road. You know, it's not like we're going,
Well,
you know, I'm just want to make that clear.
and so, Eric, can you spread us back out to where we can see across the road? The problem, the easement problem is not, eminent domain is going to take over when we try to move all these utilities. And the 5 feet on the north side of Monroe is going to be a given. And they want that too. We want to go to that far north line. We don't want to give up that easement at all.
Technically, we already do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're not going to give up that easement. And Alan, are you proposing to pull your plat if you don't get, if we insist on the yellow line, are you going to pull your plat?
Well, I just want to be fair, but all I'm asking for is 5 feet. You know, that's fair. Quarter acre, all I want is 5 feet. And as far as eminent domain goes, 60 years from now, if you want it, you're going to take it anyhow. So,
Yeah,
you know,
we're going to get it when we want it, right?
right, you will.
So I would like to do what works for you. I don't want you to pull your plat. I want you to develop.
Yeah, I'd
So-
like to have that 5 feet. I think that's a nice middle of the road, you know?
Well, actually, it's the side of the road here. But Eric's correct in his approach.
Yes, he
Because
is.
when they actually do widen this road, which none of us in this room are going to be here, they would like to have all 74 feet. And that would go from Federal to the swing in Monroe on Railroad Plaza, the railroad crossing, just down from you,
Okay.
3 blocks away.
Right.
And the road swings definitely to the north, probably what, Eric, 40 feet?
Yeah, probably 10 to 15 for sure.
So I guess we're just splitting hairs here, and it would certainly be easier. We're going to require you to maintain all of that, and we're going to keep it quiet that you own 5 feet of the north side of the road, so you don't get the weed ordinance. How's that
Yeah. What a bonus.
for a compromise, okay? Sometimes we try to work with you.
Okay, great.
But I would suggest to you that you let us have the yellow line at this point. And if you don't, see, what that does is we can approve this the way it sits if we get the yellow line. If we move the line to another abstract location, we have to have an amendment to this motion. And it has to come off the table, so somebody has to amend it. Or we had to come back with another plat another night,
Okay, we can do that.
okay? So do you want me to just proceed where we're at, right here?
I'd like that 5 feet.
Okay, let's see if we can get it for you, okay?
Okay,
You can sit down.
okay.
Thanks, we appreciate it. I went to the planning commission meeting and I understand all of the issues here. And I, for one, am of the opinion that we ought to have an amendment and move back to 65 feet. Don't know that that's agreeable to everybody, but it is to me. And so I would need a motion from somebody if anybody's amenable to that. If we're not, we'll have to move with the yellow line.
Move that we make an amendment to 65 feet, 74, 75 feet in that area.
Well,
You show me what they're going to build in that area, knowing the surrounding area. And, I move that we do as the petitioner wants.
so let's get, Eric,
I'll second that, Your Honor.
we got a motion and a second. Eric, does that require a new survey? If we say 5 feet
No, Your Honor.
off of the yellow line to the north?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
if the motion by Councilman Larson is to amend to 5 feet north of the yellow line.
It won't require a new survey. They can simply add the line to the plat, and then when they submit it back to the department, prior to our signing the plat, we'll just make sure that that line is where it needs to be.
And I have a motion and I have a second. The motion is Councilman Larson's, and the second is Councilwoman Borders. So do we have to move this motion first and then amend it? For you guys that are the scholars
To
of
make
this.
the motion however he likes.
Yeah, Your Honor, the motion that I have on the table is to approve the plat with the easement at 65 feet rather than 75.
Correct.
Eric tells me no on that, though.
Is it-
Is that a no for me or no for Kristen?
Your Honor, I believe part of what we're talking about is we're trying to find the right measurement to allow the 5 feet, right? So I think we need to make sure that the motion reads whatever that distance is. Is that correct?
69 feet.
I'd defer to Eric.
Correct. If you want to split the difference between the yellow and the green line, the motion would need to be 69 feet of right-of-way versus the 64, because the green line is 64, as was originally presented to the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Yellow line was what was recommended by the Planning Commission. So if we split that difference, it would be the difference between 74 and basically 60.
So Kyle, are you adept to move your amendment
Yes.
to 69?
69,
Earlier, your second's good.
if that's okay with the,
Alan, is that all right with you? That work?
yes, sir.
Councilman Bailey?
Okay, so I had another question. I heard in that, is he dedicating the easement to the city of Riverton, or is he giving the property to the city of Riverton, and his new property line will be that?
Very good question, Your Honor. It will be dedicated as public right-of-way, so it will go to this, it will be a parcel in and of itself that is right-of-way that the city of Riverton owns. It will not be an easement.
Okay, so the city of Riverton will own that 69 feet.
That's correct.
Okay. And then his property line will be basically halfway between where the green line and the yellow line are right now,
Also correct.
his actual property line. And I guess I would ask, would he be willing to give an easement on that 5 feet that's left so that in the future, we don't have to risk him building something on it, and if it ever did get used, then it's impossible to be deeded over to the city? I mean, and right now, I guess my thought is, I don't see them ever using that for a structure or anything other than, driveway or something that's not, because it's actually quite a bit on the street side of his fence already. And I understand not giving any more than you absolutely have to, but in a planning perspective, we don't want somebody building their barn right on the right-of-way line so that in the future, we couldn't ever use that if we did need it in the future. And I guess I don't see the possibility of that very strongly, but.
And that is a good suggestion, because in this zoning, you can build on a 0 lot line. So Councilman Bailey is correct. That would be a wonderful amendment if you were open to that.
Yeah.
Yep. That's not funny, because we're going to charge you taxes for it and everything else we can do. Okay. So let me restate that we're going to move the lot line to 69 feet. We're going to have an amendment to that requires you to not build within 5 feet of that, past that yellow line. Okay?
Your
And-
Honor, we could also request that the easement be placed on the plat, and then that would.
That's a good idea. Is that all right?
Create the need to indicate that nothing could be built. We just add the easement rather than right-of-way. So he still owns that property, it's just easement.
It's just an easement line now. The yellow is just an easement line. That's confusing, but that makes everything back off to that point,
Your Honor.
okay? Councilman Bailey.
And that stays within what we normally do on most lot descriptions, is we put a, utility and access easement around the edges so that if you ever need to get a water line or gas line or whatever through there, you already have an easement in place. So I think that would follow our normal procedure and, again, get at least 69 feet off his tax bill. So I would so move.
Okay, so is that a motion to amend the amendment from Councilman Bailey? Is it not?
Your Honor, if I may, I do not believe the current amendment has been passed.
No.
And as such, you wouldn't need to amend the,
So that's a friendly,
it could be a friendly amendment to say that if the
Kyle?
original two were okay.
so that's a friendly amendment to you? Are you okay?
Yep.
Yes.
The second's all right. So now, we're going to state that we're going to move the property line to 69 feet and put on the plat an easement line at 74 or 71? 74. Yeah, 74. And do I still have a motion and a second?
Yes.
So we have a motion by Councilman Larson and second by Councilwoman Borders, and on an amendment from Councilman Bailey, right?
No, they had adjusted the motion.
They adjusted their motion, thank you. So that's where we're at. Everybody thoroughly confused? The rest of you guys up here? Everybody with it? Okay, here we go. No more discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Alan. We appreciate that. Thanks for coming. Kristen, did we get that right?
Yeah. That was the main motion. That was the motion on the table, was from Councilman Larson.
Okay. Thank you. Good.
We're good. Okay, now we're going to move to item 13, public hearing consideration for a new restaurant liquor license for the Al Luma LLC. City Clerk's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mayor and Council, before you tonight for your consideration is a new restaurant liquor license application submitted by La Luna LLC, doing business as La Luna. The restaurant will be located at 711 East Main Street, which is the former El Sol location. The liquor license application is for the remainder of the liquor licensing year, which is through March 31st, 2022. The applicant has submitted all the necessary applications to reopen a restaurant at the location. However, due to the food service permit application approval process, they are still awaiting their food service permit. Pursuant to state statute, the liquor license cannot be issued without a valid food service permit. However, the governing body can still approve the new liquor license with the contingency that the liquor license will not be issued until the applicant receives their food service permit. So barring the pending food service permit application, the Wyoming Liquor Division has certified the application is complete. The proper fees have been paid and proper notice to the public has been advertised. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the new restaurant liquor license for La Luna LLC, contingent upon the applicant receiving a valid food service permit.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
The chair would entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Councilwoman Cox has the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I now declare a public hearing is open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statute and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Seeing none, the chair would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion and Councilman Peranto has the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the new liquor license, the new restaurant liquor license for La Luna LLC, contingent on the license receiving a valid food service permit.
So moved.
Christie, was that you? Were you in?
Yeah, that was her.
Councilman Salisbury, and do I have a second?
Carla.
Carla, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. The Wind River Visitors Council budget, Helen Wilson, could you inform us, Helen? Sorry I didn't get to shake your hand, I missed you in the audience. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having us here. My name's Helen Wilson, and I'm with the Wind River Visitors Council, and we were here a couple of weeks ago. We also have the Riverton representatives here, Julie Buller and Hal Herron, and Paula McCormick, who is not a representative, but she's done quite a bit of work with the Visitors Council. We were here a couple of weeks ago, and the change to the budget you have in your hands is now the marketing campaign is filled in with numbers. The big number hasn't changed, but now you have additional small numbers in there. The marketing campaign went to our board of directors last week and was approved. We are here today to ask for approval of the whole budget. And I am happy to talk about some other things, or I guess I will. So some of the things that we do as at the Wind River Visitors Council, we have our TAD grants and our TAD funds, which go to the different communities. And I have the numbers here for Riverton. So Riverton brings in $52,128 in this budget in TAD funding. That represents 35.1% of the lodging tax money that comes into the community. So that's a really high number. We also provide $20,000 to FAST for airport marketing. Some of the exciting things that we're doing relating to Riverton is a 48-hour in Riverton campaign, which is something our public relations firm has been working on. And basically, I got to spend a day with some people from Riverton and go around and see what people who live in Riverton would promote to tourists. And we've made an itinerary, which is with our public relations firm now, but we're expecting a draft any day now of that. So that's exciting. We're also working on a culinary fact sheet, which is restaurants in the community in Riverton, as well as the other places in Fremont County and on the Wind River Indian Reservation. And we're also working on a list for a company called Truly 360, who does our Google searches and our Google Maps and our Google trainings, so that when you type something in, you can see actual 360 images, and you actually can find a business as opposed to being 2 blocks away. And so we're working on a list right now of places for them to photograph and video when they're out here. And the weekend they're coming is really exciting because it's during your balloon rally in Riverton. And it's also during the climbing festival in Sinks Canyon and Du Bois Day Du Bois Museum Day in Du Bois. So we're going to have them just go around, take video, take images, and go to some of the local businesses and do some work there so that businesses are showing up on Google Maps. Other than that, I can give you more numbers about tourism. It was the same numbers I provided last week. But we are asking for approval of our budget. I believe one of the things that was holding up the process is we have 2 brand new board members who have now been with us for a couple of months and have done our strategic planning workshop and now 2 board meetings. So so they're here as well if you have questions for them.
Thank you. Helen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Julie or Hal, do either one of you have anything to add?
I'm actually excited. I'm excited for the new direction that we're going with the Riverton Council. I think that there's a lot of positive results that are going to come. I think Riverton's going to see a presence with the Wind River Visitors Council. So Helen and I are excited to see what's happening. And one thing that Helen didn't mention is the Airport Task Force group that we're trying to get people to fly into Riverton next year, and that's a huge deal, so that we can capitalize on that. And then
she's also posting on the Wind River Visitors Council the new Y Riverton website, which is what we're going to try to use to promote tourism within Riverton specific. But the journey begins here. We want to get everybody into Riverton, fly in here, drive in here, spend 1 to 3 days on the front or the back end of your excursion, and then we'll send you off to Jackson and Yellowstone. But by the time we're through with them in the Wind River country, they won't even want to go that direction. So, and Helen's got, I mean, they've got, like I said, there's lots of things on the plate that I think in the next year, we're going to see a lot of positive things happen for not just Riverton, but Fremont County, the Wind River country. So,
We've got very big plans.
Yep.
And they are very exciting. I mean, we live in such a great place. We just need to show people.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, I think the issue last time when she was presenting the budget, a lot of this was new to you as it was to us because the Wind River Visitors Council is changing. And as Helen expressed, we're morphing, I guess I can say now, we're morphing from an outplacement of all services to bringing back at least half of those this year, those services in-house. So ergo, before, there was no active executive director, it's my understanding, but now there is. And so personnel are going to replace some of the cost items that McCormick Marketing was writing checks for. And I think that was some of the confusion on the initial budget. But having gone through this with Miss Julie and others, I think they have a very balanced approach to Fremont County with a lot of inclusion of Riverton. So I think they've done a great job, and we'll just see how it fleshes out. But I think it's going to be positive. They've got a great agenda.
and one other thing.
I thought you were done.
No. Well, we're Mutt and Jeff, just so you know, at every meeting that we're So, she did also hire, or we hired, Preston Ackerman from Rock Springs, exciting, full of energy young man, and he does the drone stuff. And so we're excited to have him. He's the community engagement director, so you guys will probably all be meeting him. He's going to start going out to the communities and hopefully getting everybody engaged within the community. What Helen and I just had a conversation the other day, so they're doing this arts, what's the thing in Lander? The arts, they're going to, art district. And so we started talking about if we had Preston out there in all these communities and he knew what was going on in each of them, somehow we could draw all of Fremont County together. For example, Lander's not just an art district. We've got art on the reservation, we've got art in Riverton, we've got our Hal's working on the art around town. So if we could come up with a few things each year to draw the whole county together. I know I've talked with Mike and different people about promoting tourism, if we could figure out something every weekend for people to do. Well, if we got everything out there for Fremont County, yeah, there is something for people to do when they come, tourists to come every single weekend. And then we're not going to exhaust each city individually with trying to come up with something each weekend. So I think we're going to have a county-wide effort to promote tourism, and Helen's going to, and Ryan, or Preston, I think are going to help bring us all together, so.
Helen, where are we for the third hire?
I'm not prepared to hire anybody right now because we are seeing how Preston and I work together and seeing the gaps. We do have somebody who started today doing the social media. This is an outsource, doing the social media and the newsletters for 3 months while we see if there's gaps. So I am feeling like Preston and I can handle the job between the two of us and then outsource the social media. But I want to give it 3 months to see if there's things that just aren't getting done or we just don't have enough time in the week. Right now, it's not looking that way, and we are in our very busy time of year. So we're definitely working overly full days. But from looking at the past, this is the busy time of year, so we should both be getting down to 40 hours so we can come in a couple months.
Super. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any questions?
So get excited, you guys.
We got one in the back.
Thank you.
What?
I just have one quick question on the TAB money. When you look at your budget, that's about 30% for each tab, roughly. Kip, I just, On the TAD money, so I can understand it a little bit, because in the past, it's definitely felt like Wind River Visitors Council hasn't done a lot for Riverton. So looking at that, you see it's about 30% for Riverton, 30% for Lander, 30% for Du Bois. So does that mean that the total lodging tax money that comes in, each one earns 30%?
That is a great question, and I'm gonna try to explain this as clearly as I can. So all of the money that we receive, oh, no, you're fine. Is the lodging tax money, and 25% of it goes to the TAD funds. So that's just, math this is how much we're getting, which on the budget is $630,000. 25% of that goes to TAD funds. Now, the lodging tax comes from hotels, and it is the lodging tax. So the towns or the cities get the percentage that they bring in. So it's not like we sit around and say, oh, we're going to give this much, this much, this much to here. It's like, okay, so this year, on this current budget, Du Bois brought in 33.8%, so they get 33.8% of that 25%. Riverton brought in 35.1%, so they get 35.1%. So it's more math than anything, but it's a set amount depending on the percentage that comes in. We do have two towns, Shoshone and Hudson, that get a flat rate because of the low number of, either the low number or the no number of lodging tax funds that are coming in. So Shoshone gets 6,000, Hudson gets 3,000, and everybody else gets the percentage that they bring in. Does that make sense? Okay.
And so clarification for the audience members, those TAD funds go currently to the Riverton Chamber of Commerce, and they disperse those at this point right now. And Tony's working on that, and we'll get an update on how those TAD dollars go out. They go out every year, and we'll make the arrangements with that, and that'll be another discussion. But we do appreciate your presentation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the Wind River Visitor Council budget.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson has the motion. Councilman Bailey has the second. Further discussion on the table? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. It appears we've got to where the audience want to go. We're at the item 15, EDGE half-cent funding recommendations. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I do believe this is where everybody's showed up for.
Well,
Geez, I thought it was for the wastewater program.
made Paula and
That's only
Ellen
the
leave.
back half, right quarter of the room, sir. Your Honor, following approval of the half cent for economic development at the last general election, council established the Evolve, Diversify, and Grow Our Economy, or EDGE committee. We've had many conversations about this, and council has diligently walked through these steps. Members were selected, bylaws adopted, and the committee ultimately began accepting applications for funding. During the initial funding cycle, not only did we find out a lot of the things that we need to do different next time, but we also received 7 great applications. These 7 applications all did come in under the timeline that they were supposed to. And on 5/20, following presentations to discuss presentations from the applicants, the committee ultimately provided recommendations. With that, the committee recommended 2 separate applicants for funding. The first is Riverton Medical District. The committee recommended $300,000 per year for 2 years. That's a $600,000 total. And the second one is $155,000 one time for the CWC equine facility upgrades with contingencies. Those contingencies included keeping the scope as provided, as the initial application simply wanted the EDGE monies to cover all of the project. So, and if not, if that didn't work, then the scope would be reduced. So keeping the scope where it is presented and providing the required match to keep that scope. So if it's, I believe the total cost of the project was $454,800. So it would request that they cover the remainder of that. With that being said, Your Honor, those are the only two that are provided. It is recommended that instead of authorizing approval at this point, that you direct staff to provide, to develop funding agreements as you see fit based on the recommendations that you have. Then we will take those funding recommendations, work with the applicants, of course, and provide those back to council, probably the first meeting in July, if I had to guess. The reason for that is each application that you get ultimately it's unique to the next one. So we didn't go and develop 7 of them and wondering which ones you were going to approve and not approve. We'll work with the applicants to make sure all the language is appropriate and that it passes all muster. Keeping in mind that as our understanding of how funding works with this funding sources, you can designate money but not allocate it. You can say we want to provide X percentage of the funds collected up to a certain amount for the period of time that council is currently seated. So you can't bind the future council. So that's that 2-year reason. With that in mind, we would develop the funding agreements that do exactly that. That keeps us within the boundaries of what we understand to be appropriate. With that, Your Honor, we would stand for any questions, and we do recommend funding for these applicants as presented.
Thank you. We're at a spot here that we're going to have to have a discussion a little bit prior to the motion. And so I can lay that out just a little bit better. And there are 3 members of the EDGE committee in the room, I believe, as I look across the crowd, and I really do appreciate their efforts. This has not been an easy thing to do. EDGE has been meeting, Megan, since the 1st of January. And once a month and sometimes twice a month. And so there's been a lot of information passed out. We did take applications from 7 different organizations, finding that only 2 of them really met the criteria for funding, and those are the 2 that are recommended. The hospital group put their application in requesting $400,000. In hindsight, the EDGE committee approved out of their committee a $300,000 sum. The total, Tony, is 609 is what we're hoping to get.
Yes, Your Honor, that's the current estimate we're working with.
So if we keep that in the back of our minds, and Tony explained this really well, but I want to go over it again. Kevin is in the room, Kevin Kuczynski. Kevin knows this front and back, and if we get off course, Kevin, you'll fix us, right? So you can do it. So we can't obligate these funds. We can't spend these funds until we've actually collected them and they're in a checking account, an account that Mia has control of. And we trust her because she spends the littlest amount of money than anybody else in the room. And so when we get those funds, we're able to disperse them. But we can't disperse them until we have those funds. But we have got an opinion from the state attorney general that we can allocate funds. And so what we're proposing to do is allocate money to the hospital. The hospital is going to take that letter of recommendation from the city of Riverton, all contingent on the fact of how much sales tax comes in, right? So if we don't do a good job with sales tax, then the number's lower than the 609. I have all confidence in Riverton. And so we're the first ones to do this, to be real frank. Nobody else has kept up with us. We're way out in front, and maybe we're moving too quick for what we're doing. But after we got off the dais, or after the recommendation went out, the callers came in. Christy was the first one to me, that 300,000 would not do the job. And And what they really needed, Christie thought, was 438,000, somewhere in there. And so that would have been helpful to the Edge Committee, if the Edge Committee knew those numbers, where we were at. The next call that I got was from Court, and Court said that we were at about 440. And so we're at somewhat of a dilemma. We in the Edge Committee, Tony sits on the Edge Committee, I sit on the Edge Committee as just liaisons. We're not voting members of that committee. Megan is the secretary. And so we're all in the room, and we went to all of these meetings, and we came up with these recommendations. But I think the right thing to do now, in my thought, is to amend the totals recommended by the city administrator to the Riverton District, Hospital District, to $440,000 per year for 2 years, for a total of $880,000 in those 2 years. And then to amend the CWC equine facility from 155 down to 100,000. What we don't want to do, and Councilman Bailey and I had a good conversation, we don't want to have nothing in the purse. So if somebody came in with a hot opportunity, we would have nothing to support with. And so that's why we've moved those numbers, and it leaves us somewhere around $60,000 that we can still dedicate. That money has to be spent. This is not a savings account. So if we get to the end of the road and the hospital needs a little bit more money, or the college needs a little bit more money, we would make the recommendation that the college comes back and reapplies. We're hoping with this, and I've asked Mr. McGuffey if this 440 would get us to where we can put our application into the USDA, and he thinks that it is possible to make it with that amount of money. And so instead of funding just enough money to get to the crash site, I would like to make the proposal that we fund enough money to make the application work.
So, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to award Riverton Medical District $440,000 per year for 2 years for a total of $880,000.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilwoman Salisbury for $444,000 for 2 years. We have a second from Councilman Larson. Is there further discussion?
And do we need to amend the recommendation for the,
You want to put the college on the same one, or you want them separately?
Yeah, no one from the college is here, so let's do that. Is anybody from the college here? Ernie, you don't count. We do care about the college.
Your Honor, I would recommend that your motion state to develop agreements for those amounts as opposed to just approving the straight funding right now.
Good idea. That's why we keep you around. We'll change that.
Can I amend it to also include, to make agreements with Central Wyoming College for $100,000 for 1 year?
Okay. Kyle, do you want to second that? So do we have everything in place? Any further discussion? Mike?
Your Honor, again, like you and I discussed, I'm in total support of both of these programs. Again, my fear is we want to make sure that we do save some back so that if we do get another opportunity in the next 2 years, we haven't just spent every dime we've got coming in. So again, this would leave us at the estimate of $600,000 a year. This would leave us about
$60,000 a year.
$200,000 total. If 980 out of 1.2, $220,000 roughly.
About 60 a year.
But that's only $100,000 is just total, right? Not per year.
correct?
I thought it was per year.
For the college, it's
It's 1 year.
It was just
Your Honor,
1
it
year.
is 1 year.
Oh, perfect. That's even better.
So that leaves us, $220,000 left, which is a substantial amount of money. And I mean, that's my only fear, because I don't know what the Edge Committee is going to talk about for the next 2 years if we spend every dime we got. So they at least need the opportunity to be able to have other programs presented to them and have opportunities to help other things grow in the community, so.
Kyle?
But with that 200,000 over two, is that 2 years? 200,
Yeah.
100,000 per year, 200,000.
100,000,
Yeah, roughly.
yeah.
You see, I've only been here a short while, 35 years, and
Feels
I
like
think the
long-
opportunity of a hospital is the opportunity. And I haven't had anybody, and I've talked to a few people, that has said, oh, we need to keep our powder dry and stand. Essentially, the hospital might need more. And that might be the hot deal.
Well, remember, they're in the room, and we don't want to make them think that there's any more money than they're getting.
Well, it'll come back to us. It'll come back to us. When you start bringing in clientele and you bring in customers, clients, patients, you know, that comes back to us in further taxes. And I can't think of a greater benefit to Riverton than a full-service medical facility. And I mean that wholeheartedly. That, you know, I remember sitting in the 90s talking about Walmart coming in and how that was going to devastate us and how it was going to do this and do that. And I remember being one of those that said, you're making a big mistake by being against Walmart. Those people that work there at Walmart pay taxes, eat food, buy houses. That's what, and use water and sewer. And the same is going to happen with the hospital. We only need 3 things in Riverton to be a success. We have an airport, we have a junior college, and now we need a hospital, not a first aid station. This will allow us to grow and become what we want to become. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe since I misread that recommendation to this college, we could keep it at the 150 range. 155. It's a 1-year proposal. Court, you got to come up to the mic.
I had a question. Court McGuffey from the Riverton Medical District. Maybe for the city administrator, Tony. Now, when you say we're not going to allocate the funds tonight, we're going to work through an agreement, does that mean we're going to get that letter from the city? When does that letter come then, if it's not going to be allocated this evening? I guess is my question.
Council could, Your Honor, if I may.
Please.
All of the funding agreements that we do, whether it be for contracts for services or the like, are attached to a funding agreement that denote we are providing funding formally for this amount for these functions. So we do that in every single case. In this case, we can provide a letter that says that the council has approved or directed staff to prepare a funding agreement for this much money, if that is council's wish. We have no problem providing that, because if you voted on this right now, that's exactly what you would have done. And then council would have to approve the funding agreement in July, simply because you would have to approve the details in the contractual agreement that exists there. So that's what you would have. So they can have a letter, but it would state that council intends to provide X.
And so X, Court, is our way of saying we're going to make sure we dot all the i's and t's, but we'll try to maintain the 440 in that letter, but it takes us a minute to do it. Okay. We have to do it, we have to once again do it in front of the body of the council.
Okay.
So we can write a letter to the USDA that we can sign and say that we've obligated, that that we've obligated funds from the half cent to the amount of $440,000 a year for the next 2 years.
Perfect.
Will that work?
That's what we need. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Perfect. Is everybody in agreement with that? Now, the only question that I have, because I didn't read that well, we could move that back to 150, which will, on a one-time basis to the college. Tony, explain to me why I can't do that.
Your Honor, you may.
I know I can, but tell me why I shouldn't.
Your Honor, if council wishes to keep any money aside for any either smaller applications or any future funding, you would essentially exhaust, by doing that, you would essentially exhaust everything until next year. So right now, as you currently have it, you're leaving about $60,000 on the table for opportunities in the next year or other application processes. If you choose to keep it at the 150, we'd have probably about $10,000 to work with, on $10,000 to $20,000, depending about where it comes in on. So if council wishes to do that, we absolutely can.
In year one, and we're concerned with year one.
Yeah.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I think that we should leave it at 100,000 for this year, and then as the college develops that project, I've talked to some people, have them come back for what they need each year.
Good idea. Christie also points out that the college is already pre-funded by $15 million in taxpayer funds to an $18 million project. So it's not that the taxpayer hasn't bought in already. Mayor Vincent, are you going to address us? I thought you were leaving. I was getting all disappointed. Good.
Could please, you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman, I'm not sure I heard everything in the back of the room, but what I wanted to share with you is that the most important decision you will have to make in your career as mayor and as councilman is how to get this hospital built. That's the most important thing on your plate, bar none. And it's on your plate now. You don't have to catch it. You don't have to cook it. You don't have to do any of that. It's on your plate. So you need to finish it. And I'll tell you what happens if you delay or hedge on that is when it was my first meeting as mayor, we came in here and we were going to award a contract to rebuild Main Street. Put all new utility in, all new underground systems, all new pavement, new sidewalks, the whole kit and caboodle, except some people were fussing over the median strips. And so you know what happened? 3 of the councilmen said, that's easy to take care of, we just won't do it. So all of the people that were going to get to work, all of the people that were going to have a new street, all of the buildings that were going to have new sewer and water service and all of that stuff are standing there like, what? Well, finally, we turned it around. And then, in the interim, we had to rebid it. And then it cost $1 million more. So my dear friend Bill Urbicite and I had a meeting at my office on a Saturday morning, and we went through and we did some value engineering. And we cut money out of the responsive bid, and we drained, a lot of people didn't know this, we drained the whole general fund reserve. It was about $1,200,000. We drained it so that we could build it. And then what we did is the council wouldn't let me hire a lobbyist, the city to hire a lobbyist, so I hired a lobbyist. And one of the young women was Kara Calvert. And you know what they did? They went back and they found that $1,250,000 and paid it all back. And the only people that had their hands out at that point in time were the highway department to make sure they got their cut of it. And I forget, some other government agency wanted to get their hair. We had to get a little haircut, you know. So, and I'm not saying that to brag or anything else, but I am saying it because you can't screw around with this. You don't know what's coming 2 years from now. I don't either. Hell, we may be dead. But what I do know is if you spend the money now, you're going to get a hospital. And that is something that is so vitally important to this community. It can't be overstated. And so I really urge you, all of you, to vote to to spend that money and get the hospital built. That's what we need. We don't need to wait for somebody else to come in. We need a hospital now. That's about all I was going to say. Thank you.
Mayor, are there any statutes of limitations on what you did?
None that I know of.
Your Honor, I'll look into it.
But yeah, I know. But I'm too old to put in jail now. See, I got so many pre-existing conditions, they don't want me there.
Well, I couldn't find room for him either.
I know.
Thanks, Mayor. We appreciate the comment, and I think you're correct. So currently, the conversation is just simply to do what we did, and I think it's correct now that it's been re-mentioned. So the motion, Councilman Bailey.
I guess I just have one more question. So on the college, they're using that to match, to get a grant, to get the facilities that they're wanting to add on to that project?
Your Honor, you have the Equine Center that's funded elsewhere, and that's standalone. These are additions to that particular facility in order to augment its use. The request from the college was for the total of everything they needed. The recommendation that came to you from the Edge Committee was to provide them funding that they would have to match if they wanted to collect that funding. So, and within the 2-year period. We did let them know that after that recommendation, and we haven't heard back from them about whether or not that's a challenge or the like, but they are aware of it. So the recommendation would be in the contract would be that any funding they get, they only get if they can match it and keep the scope of what they have proposed originally.
So I'm going to follow up to that would they be acceptable to get $75,000 per year over 2 years as opposed to $150,000 or $100,000 now, so they could still do the entire scope of the program?
Your Honor, I would imagine that would be acceptable as their time frame. We're hoping that their time frame would even meet the 2 years.
On that note, I think the project begins this August, and it'll be complete in 2023. So rather than giving it, I think I would like do this year and let them come each year to see as it gets done, because I'm not sure they know exactly what they need on everything at this time.
Okay. So since you're the closest to that, is $100,000 the way you would like to see that roll?
That's what I'm proposing tonight.
So, and that's the motion that we have right now in front of us. The motion that we have right now, I'll walk it back through, is to fund the hospital at $440,000 for the next 2 years, and the college application for $100,000 instead of the appropriate amount from Edge of $155 for in those total of 2 years. It's a one-year payout, but they're not going to exceed the first year, correct?
Correct, Your Honor. It'd be a total of 155, where the Riverton Medical District, based on your motion, is 880.
And we've moved that back to $100,000 for CWC.
Correct. I'm sorry, you're right, Your Honor. $100,000 over the next 2 years, with 880 for Riverton Medical District.
And I have the motion from Councilwoman Salisbury and the second from Councilman Larson. Do you still stay intact with what?
I thought the college was $100,000 for 1 year.
That's
and
right.
Not
That's where we're at.
in the.
Sorry,
do you
I
not-
meant, it's $100,000 is the maximum that they will get. You're saying from the collections of this year, and I'm sorry, I want to be clear on that. They're not getting $100,000 a year for 2 years. They're not getting $200,000.
1 year.
So,
And with the request that they come back next year and make application,
See what they need.
correct.
because we will be funding next year, right?
At this point,
We fund for 4 years. Kevin, have you heard anything that won't work? Have you heard anything that won't work? Are we still within the scope?
So Tony would know better, but it does say in the MOU that you cannot commit the funds until they're collected, right? And now we believe we have legal opinion that says you can say, all right, we will obligate funds in the future upon collection. So I'd say probably the only concern I would have is stating a dollar amount. What are you going to do if your collections come in less than projected?
Tony?
And Your Honor, I can answer that. The agreements will essentially be written to say a certain percentage up to a dollar amount, not to exceed a certain amount within the period of time. You can never go over the 100% because of the way it'll be written.
And that would address that concern.
And that's why we need that time to dot the i's and cross the t's and get that right.
Correct.
But in essence, we are gonna obligate ourselves to 440. We okay?
Yeah, provided the collections come in at that level.
You going to jail with Mayor Vincent and me?
I hope not.
It's on TV now.
So we have that motion. Any further discussion? We've heard from all the experts. Probably Mia's the only one that hasn't spoken. Are we okay, Mia? Okay. Anybody else have anything? So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thanks for your attendance. We appreciate it. And Item 16, public hearing to consider an ordinance number 21-006 on first reading, the Riverton Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04, alcohol beverage revision. City clerk's report, please.
We need a celebration first.
We can have a minute.
They need time to do the happy dance.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. I should go back and thank all the EDGE members that are still here for their hard work. And it would have been better to know that number up front, but we're never going to know that. So thank you for your time. Now, Kristen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mayor and Council, before you tonight for your consideration on the first of three readings, it is an ordinance that would amend Chapter 5.04, which is the alcoholic beverages chapter of the Riverton Municipal Code. And specifically, the changes are to reflect the liquor code changes that were passed during the 2021 legislative session, as well as providing organization of the chapter in a more logical order. I will first briefly explain the legislative changes. They were approved through House Bill number 13 during the 2021 general legislative session. The bill contained 3 sections, and they are as follows. Section 1 of the passed bill separates the winery and the microbrewery permits. Before in state statute and in our code, the winery and microbrewery permits were combined, and so this just separates those two. This section also allows for the delivery of alcoholic liquor and malt beverages by certain licensees. And so this will allow liquor licensees to sell their alcoholic liquor or malt beverages over the phone, and like organizations like DoorDash can then do the delivery for them. They can contract that out. Section 2 of the passed bill defines each type of license or permit that is available, which is now defined in our ordinance as well, all of the licenses that are available. This section also adds the new permit, which is called the special malt beverage permit, and this is a special malt beverage permit for public auditoriums, civic centers, or event centers, and allows the licensing authority to establish that fee. For instance, an organization that comes to mind for this type of permit would be an organization like the Fair, who could purchase a special malt beverage permit, which would be good for an entire year, where the organization could sell malt beverages at their events. This could provide opportunities for the organization to sell malt beverages at fundraisers or their normal events. I set the fee at $500, and this, of course, council can change this if they see fit. But I came to that dollar amount based on the current cost of our 24-hour malt beverage permits, and those are $50 a piece. And so the equivalent of the $500 fee for the entire year would be the equivalent of 10 24-hour malt beverage permits. This section also updated the definition of a restaurant by removing the requirement of a full-service kitchen. And so now the licensing authority, which is the council, can choose any type of restaurant to license. And our restaurant liquor licenses are unlimited. There's no set limit on those anymore. The definition of a dispensing room for restaurants has also been changed, and they have now called it a dispensing area rather than a room. When it was defined as a room, the licensee was required to actually construct a room or have a room, which was quite arbitrary because in some cases, all that was required was a header and 2 pillars, and it could be defined as a room. So they removed that requirement. The dispensing area still has to, in the restaurants with the liquor licenses, this dispensing area still has to be approved by the licensing authority and is still regulated with age restrictions. We are no longer required to post notice on the premises of an application, which there was not a municipality in the state that did that anymore. That was a very old code. So they removed that. And the retail licensees are now allowed to ship up to 12 cases of wine per year to any one household. So that was all in Section 2 of that bill. In Section 3, they repealed several of the requirements. The first is the zoning section of the application. They're no longer required to fill out the zoning section, or they won't have a zoning section on the application. The proof of purchase requirement has now been removed because they have the operational definition defined that it has to be operational on a weekly basis, so they don't have to provide a proof of purchase anymore. This section also allows for one person to hold more than one license. Before, only one person could hold one license, and the way around that is that folks would create different LLCs or different business names to put the licenses in. And the other change in Section 3 makes the restaurant liquor license is non-transferable since they're now unlimited in number. They don't need to be transferred. We can just end one when one ends and do a new application when a new one comes through. So that concludes all of the legislative changes. The proposed ordinance that was included in your packet includes all of these changes, as well as organizes the chapter in a more cohesive order. The only section of the current code that was not reincorporated back into the chapter is Section 5.04.080, which is titled Consumption or Display in Public Places, and it reads as follows. It is unlawful for any person to possess or consume alcohol or malt beverage from any glass, cup, bottle, can, or other receptacle used for drinking which is not sealed or capped while operating or riding in any vehicle upon any public ways. A violation of this manner is a driving infraction that would be cited under our Uniform Act regulating traffic and highways, which is adopted through our code, and also state statute pertaining to open containers. So that is the only section of our current code that was not reestablished into the ordinance that you have in front of you today. I will also draw your attention to the fee section. The fees that are listed in this ordinance are what the city currently charges for such licenses and permits. With the separation of the winery and the microbrewery permits, we'll need to define the fee for the winery permit. I set it at $300, which that's what the microbrewery permit was set at, is $300. So I just set it at that, and if you want to change that, you certainly can. The other fee is that special malt beverage permit license that we talked about that I have set at $500. With that, Your Honor, that's a pretty brief overview of the ordinance. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, staff recommends approval of Ordinance 21-006 on first reading.
Would you please read the ordinance number 21-006 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-006 on first reading, an ordinance amending Title V Business Licenses and Regulations, repealing and replacing Chapter 5.04 Alcoholic Beverages of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Larson and a second by Councilman Perino. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I now declare the public hearing is open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statute and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Seeing none, I would suggest that we close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Councilman Larson has a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I now declare the public hearing closed. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-006 on first reading.
So moved.
I'll second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion, and Councilwoman Borders has the second. Further discussion? Kristen, do we have any wineries that are currently licensed?
Your Honor, no, we do not.
Do we have any microbreweries that are currently?
Your Honor, no, we do not.
Okay. That's a lot of work. How long did that take you to do?
A minute.
Appreciate you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 21-008 on first reading, commercial C1 zoning districts allowing dwelling units on a portion of the ground floor. Community Development Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff was recently approached by a prospective developer interested in constructing high-end apartments in an existing building on Main Street. While this would be an allowed use in the C1 zoning district, the Riverton Municipal Code currently prohibits dwelling units on the ground level where C1 zoning is in place. The intent of this sort of ordinance is to keep a Main Street feel. You want those businesses to front your Main Street so that it feels like a Main Street. However, it would not allow dwelling units in any portion of the ground floor. If there's considerable square footage, it would make sense to be able to have dwelling units with the requirement to have a business fronting the Main Street or whichever street it's facing. So ordinance 21-008 before you this evening proposes to allow for dwelling units to occupy 50% of the ground level on the non-street side of a commercially zoned building. That's certainly an arbitrary number. It did go through Planning Commission. They recommended approval at 50%. You're certainly welcome to augment that, plus or minus, as you see fit. With that, I'd stand for any questions tonight on first reading.
Your Honor.
Kyle?
I'm wondering, when we do that, do we have sufficient parking for those residents?
Your Honor,
Yes.
currently we have parking maximums, so if they have parking, great. If not, they would not be required to have parking. And specifically on Main Street, Main Street is not required to provide parking or off-street parking for, there's plenty of parking, it's just on-street.
Kyle?
the reason I ask is I've never known an apartment house not to have residents with automobiles. And currently, the only parking spaces on Main Street are for businesses. When you have residents there using businesses' parking, that diminishes the marketability or the sales traffic of Main Street.
So,
We have one lot behind Kusel's that is a city parking lot, and I've heard that tried, and it's only 90 feet, it's only this, it's only that, and you can walk from here to there at Walmart. The fact of the matter is, with reduced parking spaces on Main Street, you're going to have reduced traffic to those stores. That's a killer. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. So everybody knows what the ordinance reads. The original township of Riverton requires no off-street parking for those businesses that run up and down Main Street from probably the block above Traveling Computers to the block below, it stops at the Boot. And so those already exist. We already have apartments over the top of I, for one, because I'm a really rich guy. When I got married, I lived above the budget stretcher, which if anybody remembers where that was at. My wife can't forget it. She wakes up at night screaming every once in a while. It was kind of fun to live on Main Street because the action was right there, but we did have to park off Main by requirement to the landowner. And I also was in the tax district both times with my property at 6th and Fremont, and also the overhead door building that I owned at one time. And we were charged taxes for the purchase of that city parking lot. And so that city parking lot is designated for parking area to the downtown section. Now, Eric, do you have those pictures of the bank that's trying to sell that property? Is that too hard to get to? I can just describe it if you don't.
I can try and pull that up pretty quick.
This is an interior lot. This developer has an interior lot. It's that building that used to be an insurance sales next to the First Interstate. And so it has a 25-foot wide store frontage, which all downtown lots are 25 foot wide, but it's 140 feet deep. And so it's landlocked by the First Interstate Bank on one side. On the east side of it, the First Interstate Bank takes up all of that space. And then, so there's a large space in that building that could have something in the back of it. But it's never going to fill up because it's pretty hard to run a business in that first 25 feet that goes.
Good bowling alley or something.
Yeah, a bowling alley might work.
One lane.
And so Eric's come up with a solution for that, and I think it's a really good idea that we allow this. Now, Lander, I don't know Lander's ordinance, but Lander does have some pretty fancy apartments above Main Street. I don't know if they're on ground level. We have apartment space that you can see in the picture there, clear to the right side. Those are apartments. They're not always available, but there is across the street above the theater are apartments. Down on the next block down, 2 blocks away, I guess, over the old budget stretcher has apartments. So I don't think that the impact is terrible. Kristen, that's one of your dad's trucks. It's parked downtown. You might want to call home. But with that said, I think this is a good ordinance change. I really do. I think there's usage that makes that work. Yeah, you're gonna, now, Kyle can help us here. You can't, we used to not be able to park on Main Street from a certain time in the morning to a certain time at night to morning for snow removal. Does that still exist?
Your Honor, we do not currently enforce that. We do try and remove snow from those parking areas when people aren't there, but we do not have anything right now that restricts parking.
So that might be something that we need to bring back, that the parking needs to be amendable, that from these units they need to park, their designated parking would be off-street, off-Main. But I think the ordinance is a great idea.
How many apartments are you thinking could go into that building, just out of curiosity? Is there like a certain square footage for each dwelling, or is it?
Your Honor, that's a great question. In this particular case, it would be approximately 1,000 square feet. You're not, most of the buildings downtown, especially ones on the corner, you're not going to generate that much square footage. So you're talking one, maybe two units that would be able to occupy a ground level, unless someone was to construct or purchase the entire First Interstate Bank. Now you may have 4 or 5 units that could get put in on the ground level, but you're not talking a great deal. But it does make a difference when you're developing that property for your return on investment. If you can get even one more unit, it makes a dramatic difference for the developers.
So in the planning commission meeting that I was in, the question was posed of how about a side street? So if we switch to the Masonic Temple building, which is just a little ways away from this, that ordinance would maintain on Main Street and would maintain on Broadway. So what Eric's saying is now from this side of the Masonic Temple, which is Broadway's side, they would only be able to put an apartment in the back 50% of that building off of Main Street and off of Broadway. So you might end up with a shop owner that has a living space behind his shop or something of that nature. Mike?
I guess, I think anything that allows somebody to get more use out of their property is a good idea, and so I think it's a positive thing. I agree with Kyle, the parking issue is just an issue, and there's no way to get around it, and I don't care how you slice it. If you put the whole thing in retail or you put it all in apartments, you got the same problem. So I don't think it really changes anything that we're gonna do.
Now Kyle's building would be greatly served by this ordinance because you have your own parking,
I have my own parking.
right?
Yeah.
And you currently couldn't put any living units in your building because it's one level.
Well, if this, yeah.
And so now we could put apartment units in that building. Am I correct, Eric?
Your Honor, that would be correct.
So I think it does have advantage to let people get back to owning their property and do it in what they want to do. So that's what lays before us. Kyle?
One last thing, that will require this building to have its own water service. It doesn't now. It has only the bank service. And so the developer has got to put in sewer for that building and water for that building.
Your Honor, that's correct.
Yeah. And I think what you're referring to, Kyle, is that building in particular has a problem with its water main, right?
Yeah.
Well, I remember passing it, allowing that to occur.
And what he's referring to is that they're currently using a water main off of the First Interstate because theirs was abandoned in the reconstruction. So that's only that one building, but I think what you're suggesting is right, that the developer would need to make sure that there was adequate water taps that were paid for and sewer taps that were paid for.
Yeah.
Any other questions? The chair would entertain a motion. Wait, did I do this that far out of position? Sorry. Kristen, would you please read the ordinance by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-008 on first reading. An ordinance amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.56 Commercial District C1, Section 17.56.040, Use Regulations, subsection I, of the Riverton Municipal Code and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Now the chair would entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson has the motion, and Councilwoman Borders has the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I now declare a public hearing is open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statute and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record.
Seeing none, Your Honor, I would move we close the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilman Bailey and a second by Councilman Larson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I now declare a public hearing is closed. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-008 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion, and Councilman Dean Peranto has the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Resolution number 1435, Weed and Pest Program participation. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Wyoming Weed and Pest Control Act of 1973 basically states that every piece of land within the state of Wyoming has to belong to a special district for weed and pest management. Ours is obviously through the Weed and Pest Special District with the county. And there have been some changes with the administration of this program in the sense that by statute, municipalities and towns greater than 5,000 have the opportunity to run their own weed and pest program. We've been doing that for years. If a town elects to do that, then it receives 85% of the mill levy generated within the incorporated limits of that town. Again, we've been doing this for several years. With some of the administrative changes, the Weed and Pest District has asked that each year the City Council approve a resolution stating that it would like to run its own weed and pest program, so that's what this resolution takes care of. There's also been a slight change in how the 85% of the funds are distributed. Previously, it was a lump sum that was reimbursed. Now it will be distributed month by month when the actual mill levy revenues come into the county. So staff recommends you adopt this because it really doesn't change anything. It just formalizes it for the purposes of the district.
So let's do this right this time, okay? Kristen, would you please read resolution number 1435 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. A resolution of the governing body of the City of Riverton to establish and administer a program in fiscal year 2022 for the control of weeds and pests within the jurisdictional limits of the City of Riverton.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve, for the approval of resolution number 1435.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox has the motion and Councilman Bailey has the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Resolution number 1436, Second Amendment rights, Mayor's report. Now, do I get to talk? In the right spot? I talked all over in the wrong spot. The county commissioners recently passed amendment to show their support for the Second Amendment of the ability for individuals to have arms in the city of Riverton. And so when I can support the county commissioners, I think it's a good idea. And so this resolution, once again, pleads for the governor of the state and the legislature to not infringe upon our rights to carry and to possess firearms. And so we put that again to your acceptance to see if if it requires them to stay within the bounds of the Wyoming State, or the United States Constitution and the Wyoming Constitution. So, Kristen, would you please read resolution number 1436 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed resolution number 1436, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Riverton in support of Second Amendment rights.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve, for the approval of resolution number 1436.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has a motion. Councilman Bailey has a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. The Wyoming Department of Health wastewater sampling agreement. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. As many of you remember, the Department of Health is working on epidemiological research and survey of the SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 virus. The City of Riverton agreed to participate in this program and then again agreed to extend the program. Basically, what it requires is our wastewater operators taking samples and then sending them off to Department of Health for analysis. The Department of Health then posts it on a website that's available to the community so you can track the modeled prevalence, of the COVID vaccine in each community. Department of Health would like to extend this practice. Our current amended agreement ends June 30th, 2021. The new proposed agreement continues the exact same practice. We receive about $300 per test, and they'd like to have that go through the end of the calendar year. So that's what this agreement is before you. It doesn't change anything from what we're already doing. It's just a new agreement. The council can choose to enter into this agreement, and if you choose not to, it really doesn't do anything to us either. It just means our operators won't be testing, and then our data for our area won't be showing up on that website.
Okay. I have on my script that you were A, and now I go to D. I'm wondering where the rest of the alphabet went. Just didn't get there?
Yeah.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion for the approval of wastewater sampling and the STARS-CoV-2
So moved.
monitoring contact agreement for the Wyoming Department of Health. Kyle, you got the motion?
Second. Go ahead, Christie.
And Christie, you got the second. Councilwoman Salisbury has the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We're down to reports. Kyle, you want to start?
Just have one, the solid waste district is planning a receiving of hazardous waste in the month of July, and I think it's the 17th, but I'll have to get back on the next meeting for firming that up. And that would be in Lander, not in Riverton. And I'll have to see if that is correct, the way it's written on. It's in Lander, but I'll get back with you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Christie?
I have not attended any other meetings. We have one Thursday with the Chamber of Commerce.
Super. Keep us informed what the chamber's doing, would you?
You've got all your money.
Dean, do you have anything?
Your Honor, I don't have anything to contribute at this time.
Okay.
I haven't had any meetings since our last meeting, but have one next Tuesday with pause.
With pause. Super. Mike?
Same thing, I don't have anything for tonight.
Super.
There is, Your Honor, there is one thing. You forgot, Mike, about the airport.
Oh, yeah.
Tell them about the airport.
Don't steal my thunder.
The boarding is, the curve on, I got a wonderful email from Mr. Butterfield, and it shows the pattern of employment at our airport going up. not at a nice, gentle 30-degree angle or a nice 40-degree angle, but more like a y to the x angle. And that implies that people are using our airport for transportation in a greater amount. And the figures that I looked at, based in accordance with 2011 versus the next good year was 2013. But right now, we're on line to beat both of those if everything continues on. And it's a heck of a good deal to fly out of Riverton. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Will they be increasing flights in and out then?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, we are back to 2 daily flights except for Tuesdays. So because of the demand that we have, we've been able to add the capacity similar to what we've expected historically.
Will they be putting in like some of the flights from different places in Wyoming, or have you talked about that yet? Like put the Sheridan old one or other ones?
Yes.
Yeah, Your Honor and Councilwoman, we're actually not going to be tagging with other communities in the foreseeable future. And I see that as a good thing in the sense that we have a little bit more control on our schedule, and we don't have any variables that disrupt our flight schedules. While it was nice to have intrastate travel, we also saw that sometimes our flight times were a little bit delayed or affected by another community. So we will have our own overnight flight and then a midday turn or a round-trip flight, so 2 round-trip flights.
City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. 4 small items, one of significance. Ambassadors are scheduled to meet this week on the 3rd. We would remind council that we have a 5:30 p.m. meeting next week at this next week on Tuesday for budget.
Tony?
Yes?
I skipped Carla.
Oh.
I could have
I'm
waited.
gonna
I could have
I started in the middle and I skipped her. So, Carla, could you report, please?
Well, I really didn't attend any meetings yet. I have a couple coming up the next couple weeks. But I did want to share with the community the GoRiverton.com webpage, along with Go Riverton on Facebook. There's some pretty awesome stuff coming down. We've got Motion Bliss Academy is having a dance recital this weekend. Kids Hooked on Fishing, the Kiwanis is putting that on Saturday from 8 to 1. I just encourage everyone to go to the website. There's a flea market, there's the spring fair starting this weekend. So if you say there's nothing going on, you're not looking. So just go to that website and see what there is to do here.
Thanks, Carla. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Tony?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll just start over. Ambassadors, June 3rd, we'll be meeting, and so we'll be at that. Budget adoption on June 8th. So next week at this time, we'll have a 5:30 meeting. You only have one item on the agenda. We understand that the dates sometimes are a little, we would like to do it differently, but state statute requires that we do things a certain way. So we try to do that as best we can and make it as efficient as possible. But again, 5:30 p.m. is what it's scheduled for. We have already provided the report and the like for it, so if there's any questions, please let us know. Force is scheduled for June 14th at 11 a.m., and EDGE will meet again on June 17th, and of course, we'll debrief from this and go over our process. Those are my 4 minor items. The other item that I got permission kind of to let you know about, unfortunately, we'll be losing a member of our management team. Eric Carr will be leaving us for other pastures. I would never say greener, but I wanted to express my sincere appreciation to Eric, and we will do so more formally. He's been an absolute pleasure to work with, a great team member, and has done great things for us. So, we wish him the best, and I would invite you all to take time and thank him for the good work he's done. We just, if nothing else, you see things like the items that you had tonight, and the diligence and the thought that it took to go into that and look forward into those processes. So he's done a great job for us, and we're very appreciative. Staff will unfortunately have to start the recruitment process, and so that'll be something new for this council. But we'll be advertising that in the relatively near future. If you have any questions, please let me know. But again, many thanks to Eric. We don't like that. We don't like to see him leave, but wish him all the best. And like we said, we'll do something a little bit more formal before he leaves. So, Your Honor, with that, I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you. I draw your attention to the picture on the screen. When Eric put that road in, it was straight.
Technical name for that is traffic chicane.
That's to slow down traffic in the park. That is a gorgeous picture. He worked on that to make that work. I had the opportunity, Eric Carr has a planning commission meeting quite often, and I got to sit in on that, and that's how I got the background on the lot on Monroe, and I appreciate that information. He does a wonderful job. That commission does a really good job. How many members sit on that commission?
Your Honor, there's 9 members with 2 alternate members.
And we just never give enough credit out to all of these committees that we have, and I really do appreciate their effort for our behalf. Then I went from there to the EDGE meeting that evening, and that meeting ran till 9. We really poured over the top of that. And the EDGE committee consists of a 7-man board and 2 alternates. And so I appreciate the work that they do, and we didn't get out of there till 9 o'clock. I got a really great honor, and that was to ride with the Riverton Police Department. Chief Amy's last name has escaped me. What is it?
Eiler?
Eiler? Eiler. She was a sergeant on duty, and then we had 2 policemen,
Brennan
Brookover and Richardson were the 3 that were on duty, and I got to go out with them from 9 till about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we looked for vagrants in every spot in the city of Riverton, and I mean every spot, and we didn't find any. And Sergeant Amy was really surprised, but I mean, we looked hard. We looked on the car lots, we looked down the bike paths, we looked down the canal roads, we looked at the county, I never would have thought to go to the county fairground. We went to the College View Apartments. We covered the town really well. In the interim of doing that, I don't have the best hearing in the room, but all of a sudden we would appear in a location and there would be all 3 of us in different cars. And I didn't hear anything on the radio, so I must be deaf. But we did that 3 different times. And one was a house up on Park Street, and the ambulance was there, and all the lights were going. And just like magic, all those people were there. Our police force went in, and I was totally impressed of how they treated those people and how kind they were. The ambulance crew tried to get an individual in that house had had a seizure 4 times that evening and tried to get the person to come out, and she didn't want to, and so they just very professionally picked up their stuff and left. And the police officers did their job really well. And then the next time I noticed that we all showed up at the same place and got out of the car was down at the social club. And we went in there and worked on a problem, and they took great care of that. And then the next time I turned around, we all were at McDonald's parking lot, all 3 units. And we got out and they did a field, how do you say that?
Field sobriety test?
Sobriety test on an individual, and he passed, and we let him go. I was hoping we'd throw somebody in jail. But
Didn't get any fun at all.
no, and they were so nice to these individuals. The gentleman that we got at the McDonald's parking lot, it was cold and it was like 11:30 at night, and he was shivering and trying to do all these things, put your finger on your nose and raise your foot up and walk in a straight line, and the officers recognized that and asked if he had a coat, and he did have one in the car, and they got him his coat, and I just thought they did just a wonderful job of being polite and courteous and kind all night long. I assume that that was because I was with them, but I doubt it. They just did a wonderful job, and I think it's from the well training. I have another thing to report, but and it's a police officer that we raised here in Fremont County, and he is currently employed in Laramie. And he gave really great praise for the Riverton Police Department. And Bill Yates, I coached him in Little League Baseball, and I was pleased to hear the comments they made about our police department. And so the ride along, I would suggest to anybody that likes to do that, it would be smart to get in the car and go ride. It's a lot of fun. I ask a whole lot of questions of Amy, and she answered them all. And it's really interesting on how these guys get their schedules put together. They have to bid on their positions, and then they get to pick team players underneath them that they work with for a whole year's time. And this is a big deal. It's not just thrown together, and it's kind of fun to see it work. And I guess I better listen better. I'm not much help because we showed up in 3 locations and all of us were there. So it was a lot of fun. I appreciate the chief letting me go. I wanted to mention that we had a Arbor Day celebration at Teeter Park, and I got to read a proclamation at that location, and that's where I bumped into my old teammate and got to talk about the Riverton Police Department, and that was a lot of fun. And we don't do that as well as we should. We only had like 10 or so people there, but it was a great addition to Teeter Park. They got a brand new tree and a plaque, and that's another one of our citizen councils that function. And lots of people think that what do they do? I've said this on a number of occasions, but between Sunset and Pershing, there's over 100 trees that are labeled by that committee with tags on them, and they know what the tree is and what they're doing with the tree. And so that's all over town that they do. I did have a meeting last Monday with Tony, Julie Bowler, and Kathy Klein about the closure of the Jackson Airport. That's interesting information. They're working really hard on that. There was a READA meeting on Wednesday morning. Mike was there, Tony was there. There's a lot of great economic information that comes through that meeting, and that was well done. I appreciate the people that put that on. Over the week, it's been suggested to us that by Megan through her committee that she works on with the Rendezvous Committee, that we have 30 balloons that have already registered for the city of Riverton, and we need some sponsorships. We're not too far off, but we're missing a few, and we could use 3 or 4 more, and maybe we'll get more balloons. And so we collected up some money for that, and I appreciate the hard work that people are doing on that. And the balloon rally is a really big thing. It's right on top of our WHAM meeting, and so they don't usually cut us loose on WHAM until after lunch, and we may need to amend that for the Friday activities if we're going to do something there. So there's lots of things happening that weekend, and so thank goodness Carla will keep us up to date on what that calendar's doing, and I appreciate that. There's a ton of work being done on Main Street, and I really want to recognize the guys that are doing that work. We have 3 different projects going, and lots of times it gets confusing. I got a call from one of our good citizens the other day, and he said, I don't believe, he said, I think you're against government waste, but you're up on Main Street painting school crossing signs across the pavement. And I said, well, yeah, that's an interesting thought. Where are they doing that? And he said, well, right up on 8th Street. That's crazy. You're just going to tear Main Street out. I said, now, wait a second. We're only going to tear Main Street out from Federal to Martin Lumber, And they need those school crossings, so leave them alone. Don't pick on those guys that are working up there. So we have 3 different contracts going. S&S is just cleaning up their job, and it's looking really, really good. Then we also have Bornhoff is putting in a 380 feet of line that we're going to push through a 14-inch line, a 12-inch new line, and that's going pretty well. We may do that tomorrow or the next day. And I got my fingers crossed on that, and I did go talk to all of the people on the block, and there are some things we need to make sure happen there, but, you know, these are people's livelihoods that we get in front of, and you have a daughter who's on that block, and so she has to work around that, and we appreciate their work schedule and those things, and talking with Bornhoff's crew, they're working real hard to try to make that work. The lower section of Main Street has got some bumps in the road. I know from the contractor what that is. Kyle, do you have any defense for anybody on that?
Your Honor, for the lower section of Main Street?
Where we're going to grind it out?
That's 71 Construction, and they are waiting on their subcontractor to come back and grind up, and then they'll pave that again.
And so what they're going to do is they're going to take out just the driving lanes and leave the parking lanes going to stay in concrete. But there's some question about the bond beam underneath the highway, if it's strong enough for what they're doing. And it's kind of an experimental project. And so 71's been talking to me about that, and hopefully let's keep our fingers crossed that that works. Tony was kind enough to set up a meeting today with Tim Salzar, our state senator, and we have some real problems that we're talking about legislative-wise on that. The great news, and I was thrilled to come across it late this afternoon, was the news of the airport. 1,143 boardings, the most we've ever had in May, clear back to 2011. Pretty impressive, and they only beat us then by 8, 9, something like that. And so that's airport is, the hard work that we've poured in on the airport is starting to pay off. And Kyle and his FAST group, Ernie sits on that, and amazing what we've been able to do there. And that outpaces, if you can believe it, the Denver Air Connection that's in the middle of that. And Denver Air Connection did a great job for the city of Riverton, and yet we're above that. And so kudos to all of those guys that are in line with that, the FAST committee, the airport, the renaming of the airport, just a lot of things that have gone in front of that, and the arrival of more airplanes. So sometimes we don't think we're getting anything done, and that we are getting things done. I appreciate it. Thank you. The fun part was I got to do 2 Legion games on Saturday that none of the rest of you got to do. And tonight they called me at 4 o'clock and said, could you do a game tonight? And I should have taken the offer. We'd be done by now. So I do appreciate everything that everybody's doing, and sometimes we don't think that it's working, but I really do think that we're making some great strides. The hospital funding tonight is a tough choice, but I think it's the right choice. And so it'll make a lot of difference also. And I appreciate the council listening to those things and paying attention and doing what we need to do to push forward. I understand that we don't need an executive session this evening.
No, Your Honor.
And so without any objections, the chair would stand adjourned at 9:08.